Welcome to the first week one college football pick'em upper left pod edition with myself, by myself. That's all we got today. That's all we have. It's just myself. But we're going to get right into picks, guys. I'm not going to waste your time. But this will be a weekly podcast that will come out. We'll record it on Wednesdays. Be out by Thursday. So if we do have a Thursday game, you guys will get that. This one, all we have is weekend games. So we're recording it on a Wednesday, and it should be uploaded on will be uploaded probably either late tonight or early tomorrow. But expect the upper left college football pick'em weeks to be up by Thursday. Just me today, but we will have more people. Just with the summer ending up, people are busy. So I just did it myself tonight. So we'll see how it goes. We'll keep a running tally on our who uses Facebook, on our Twitter and our Instagram, and our we'll also have it when each week we'll have the who had what, the records popping up. But just myself tonight. Okay. So let's just go right into games. So 4 games. I got 3 regular games, and then I got my mortal lock of this week. But I'm going to start off with a game that I'm very excited about. And also, by the way, all the odds we get for this are going to be right from DraftKings. So that's just where we get them. We get them right from DraftKings. That's where we get them. No free shout outs, no ad. It's just where we get them. It's just how we get them. So first game we have is West Virginia versus number 17 Pitt. West Virginia is Pittsburgh is a -7.5. Over under is 51.5. I have in this game, this is the first time the backyard brawl, which by the way is one growing up, the backyard brawl was one of my most fun games to watch. I remember watching Pat White and Steve Slayton just tear them up. I love this game. I love the matchup. Actually, this thing is a great uniform matchup. I think Pitt's uniforms and West Virginia uniforms, both blue and white, or both blue and yellow or gold, however they want to say it, iconic. I think Pittsburgh might have the best uniforms in football, but that's another question. But a great backyard ball. First one back since 2011. So we haven't had this in for 11 years, but it's back. I don't remember how far away they are. They're not that far away, Pitt and West Virginia. I want to say less than maybe like 150 miles, maybe. I could be wrong. I have no idea. But yeah, first backyard brawl since 2011. So I'm going to talk about right now. I'm going to talk about, oh, by the way, not only is it a backyard brawl, it is also a former USC quarterback duel between Caden Slovis and JT Daniels. Both of these quarterbacks were at USC. JT Daniels was at Georgia last year, and now we have Caden Slovis, who they're not going to be playing each other, which is crazy to me that both of these guys are at new programs. It's nuts, and they're playing against each other. If you would have told them, and when they got to USC, they'd be playing each other in the backyard brawl, I don't think they would have taken that. But right to it, we're going to go to Pitt first, okay? So here's my notes. I got Pitt, their whole entire offensive line is back. The whole entire offensive line is back. Their top 3 running backs, which was 37th in rushing last year. So they have their top 3 running backs, their whole offensive line. Their offensive running game was 37th in rushing. They have a new OC, which ran the ball 59.8% of the time. That's huge for this with an offensive line already having 3 running backs, which is great. They did lose their best receiver, the Blitnikoff winner. He went to USC, but they do return their second best pass catcher in Jordan Wayne. He was rated the second best tight end in receiving yards per reception in the ACC. So that's my thing on Pitt. That's why I like Pitt. West Virginia, they lost all their linebackers last year. They only have one defensive back that had any playing experience. He's playing. And they lost their best running back and wide receiver last year. Now, one other note with Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh also brings back their whole entire defensive line and starters in the secondary. So they lost some guys, obviously, in the linebacker core, but they returned their entire defensive line and their secondary. So for that reason, I'm picking Pitt at -7.5. I think Pitt is just going to this is going to be, while it is the first backyard brawl since 2011, what I just read right there, the whole entire offensive line, their top 3 running backs, their OC likes to run the football almost 60% of the time, and their whole entire defensive line and secondary is back. I mean, for a team like Pitt that, was started getting much better towards the end of the year, I don't see how Pitt can lose this at -7.5. So I'm taking it Pitt -7.5. That's my first game. All right, second game we have is Cincinnati at Arkansas. All right. So this one, Cincinnati at Arkansas, is it's Cincinnati is plus 6.5. Cincinnati did lose Ritter to the NFL. Okay. They did lose a lot for a team that made the college football playoff. However, they're replacing a quarterback, a running back, a receiver, two-time defensive lineman, and two-time All-American in the DBs. They bring back the whole offensive line though, that has 107 starts between them. Now, what does that mean? That means that these guys have been playing together for a long time. So these guys have a lot of starts. They know what's going on. They have a new running back, but he did play a lot last year. He averaged 6.8 yards per attempt on 46 carries. So they do have some. I think that offensive line is pretty good. And while they did lose some college football playoff, I think that offensive line can keep them in the game. Arkansas only has 4 starters on defense back, and they lost 2 100-plus tacklers in the linebacker core. And my big question is this: will Arkansas, who ran the ball so much last year at 63%, are they going to attack this Cincinnati defense in the air, which I don't think they have the quarterback to do it. And you have to remember this too. While they did lose some guys on the defensive line, they do, however, Cincinnati, by the way, Cincinnati does get a new transfer 4-star from Ohio State, Noah Porter. He is now there for Cincinnati. So for those reasons, I think with the offensive line, I think with that experience and with the running back that saw some burst with 6.8 yards on 46 carries, I'm actually going to take Cincinnati at plus 6.5 on that one. So plus 6.5, Cincinnati versus Arkansas. Okay. My third game is Boise State versus Oregon State. Boise State is coming off a 7-5 season, but they return a lot of production. While they did go 7-5, they return a lot of their production from last year. The quarterback is back and is in their second year with the same OC. That's huge. They did lose their top receiver, but they could lean on their running game, which they have a veteran running back who averaged 4.8 yards per carry. The O-line between them, once again, another O-line stat, has 86 starts between them and has 2 All-West guys are back. So 2 All-West guys are back, which is huge for them. So offensive line is going to be big. And they do return their quarterback and a good running back. Oregon State was awful. I mean, awful on defense last year. They gave up 5.8 yards per play. That is atrocious. They were one of the worst teams. They were probably the worst defense in the Pac-12. They were terrible at it. They lose their running back and all Pac-12 center and right guard for an offensive line that was considered one of the best in the Pac-12. They lose a center and a right guard that were all Pac-12. That's never easy to replace. Boise State also has their whole defensive line back and 3 or 4 of their top linebackers and every single person in the secondary. Like I said, experience matters in college football. So when you return your entire defensive line, 3 of 4 top linebackers in your entire secondary, I like your chances, especially with the experience of the line. I'm going to take Boise State at +3. All right. Now to the most important, my lock of the week. My lock of the week is going to be between Utah and Florida. We got Utah going down to the swamp early. How are the Mountain Boys going to handle the swamp in their humidity? Well, let's talk about it. So this looks like an upset. It smells like an upset, but I don't think it's going to be an upset. The defending Pac-12 winners will be traveling and they will be ready. They are they returned a bunch of guys from last year. They finished 10-4. They returned 8 starters on offense with their returning their quarterback and their running back, which is huge for them. Okay. Florida is having a brand new coach with only 13 total starters back. Their quarterback had 1 start last year. He's a sophomore. He had 1 start last year where he threw for 82 yards and 2 interceptions. That is not a good stat. I do not like it. I love the fact that we have a very veteran team in Utah with a great coach going into the swamp. They're looking to play spoiler in the college football playoff. And for those reasons, I am taking Utah at +3 as my mortal lock. Those are my picks, guys. I'll go through them again real quickly. We got West Virginia and Pitt. I'm taking Pitt at -7.5. I am taking Arkansas, or I'm sorry, I'm taking Cincinnati versus Arkansas. I'm taking Cincinnati at +6.5. Boise State versus Ohio State. I'm taking Boise State +3. And don't forget this mortal lock. The mortal lock is Utah at +3 going into the swamp. It's going to happen. Lock it in. This is, I think, one of my most favorite cards I've ever had. So we're going to see how that goes. But yeah, I'm excited for this. Football's back. I know it's so weird when we had week 0 last week. We only had one real game, which was the Northwestern Nebraska game. But now we got a full slate. I'm excited to watch the Oregon game as well, Oregon, Georgia. But don't forget these right here, the picks we had, very important. Welcome back to Pick'em. Welcome back to week 1, Upper Left Pod, College Football Pick'em. I'm excited to have you guys back. Next week, week 2, there'll be 2 more people on the show. I'm excited to introduce those guys next week. But thank you for joining in, guys. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications, guys. You can follow us also on our social, which will be down below, on Instagram and Twitter and on YouTube where we're watching the show. So, bye, guys.